and they're expecting Jerome Powell to walk out onto the stage, look at everyone with a big smile and open arms and say, all right, bring the rates back down to zero. So here we are after 2 years of inflated interest rates, higher than they have been in decades. And here we are with home prices higher than ever before, grocery prices out of control, minimal wage gains. I'm getting sick and tired of all the cheerleading I'm hearing for low interest rates. Low interest rates are right around the corner. We're due for 4 rate cuts this year. Pay such close attention to everything Jerome Powell says. He's gonna dictate what's gonna happen with interest rates. Like everybody's expecting some indicator metric, whether it be the rate of inflation, PI inflation, the core inflation, unemployment rate, something like that. They're expecting some metric of measurement to come out, and they're expecting Jerome Powell to walk out onto the stage, look at everyone with a big smile and open arms and say, all right, bring the rates back down to zero. Well, it's not gonna happen, guys. I'm sorry. We've had close to 8% and hovering around 7% in mortgage rates 2 whole years now, and we're still seeing record high prices in the real estate market. Home prices higher than ever before. People are still buying, even though it's costing twice as much to buy the same house as far as mortgage rates are concerned. But here we are, 2024. Where's our housing market crash? The reality of the situation is the Fed needs a reason to cut interest rates. They're not just gonna do it because they want to do it, because they know people want them to do it, which is the obvious part. The real influence, people are expecting near zero rates. But if the positive news this week is the unemployment rate went from 4% to 4.1%, and that has the markets going crazy, the Dow up 500 points today, that makes you think the rate cuts are on the way. I'm sorry, you're living in a dream world. I'm gonna share some information that tells me that we will not in fact have rate cuts coming on the way as soon as most of you guys hope. So check it out. Just over the last week, after the 4th of July holiday, the TSA, Transportation Safety Administration, is reporting records. We're talking about over 3 million people who passed through TSA in a single day. That's an absolute record for air travel. That means more people taking flights here in the United States than ever before in a single day. And they've broken records, I think 5 or 7 times over the last 2 months of the most people traveling. We thought the numbers last year were crazy coming out of the pandemic, seeing so many people want to travel both domestically and internationally. But this year, apparently everybody's spending on credit cards, right? Interest rates are so high, everybody's struggling. Inflation is up, they're not making any money. But here we are, apparently more people are traveling now than literally anywhere before in history, which means they have not stopped spending, which means they have not worked through that backlog of saving. If we go back just a couple years, we'll remember the beginning of the pandemic, you'll remember that we saw personal savings rates hit absolute massive record highs to the point where people were saving more money, saving more of their paycheck, saving more of their unemployment than ever before in history. And this is money people were putting in the bank and saving for later. And we were all expecting to see all of these savings run through the last year and a half, 2 years of higher interest rates, with people going out, spending their money in ways that they couldn't during the pandemic, taking those international vacations, taking those trips across the country, and they did. And that's large part why we saw so much inflation, because there was so much spending, chasing such little resource, such little product. Well, fast forward till now, with all the doom and gloom of headlines, the clickbait on YouTube, news articles, all these things about how Americans are struggling so bad. And here we have it. More people are traveling, and travel is just throwaway money because traveling is expensive. You have to spend on everything from hotels to rental cars to food. But here we have everyone spending more money than ever. And you're telling me that rate cuts are on the way? What's gonna happen if people are spending at this magnitude and they cut interest rates? This is the problem that Jerome Powell has faced since the beginning. He doesn't want to make the same mistakes that were made during the high inflation of the 1980s, and they don't want to cut rates too early. So I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I an economist, but from my experience and my understanding of the situation is that if you're expecting rate cuts, I really wouldn't hold my breath. My guess is we're probably a year out. They're still saying maybe 1 to 2 this year, but even for that, I'd really be surprised. Here's one that's for sale. If you guys know anything about Bend, you'll know it's expensive. I forget, it's between 700,000 and 800,000, I think. Take a little look here. It's probably a 2-bedroom. The shed back there is the end of the property. It's actually a cute little house. If you guys are interested, it's over here right behind Newport Avenue Market. Pretty close walking distance to the river down there. Now I'm aware that the Americans debt, especially credit, is on the rise. But I'm not ready to say that all this spending that Americans are still doing is just on credit, because personally and anecdotally, I don't know anybody who's using credit to survive. And I know we see these articles and videos all the time that say that Americans are surviving off credit. They're using Afterpay and Klarna in order to buy groceries at Target. I don't honestly think that's the truth. I think there's a certain percentage of the population, maybe the bottom 10 or 20%, that's always going to use credit, and they're going to run maximums and they're going to pay minimums. But I don't think that's reflective of currently what's happening. I think there's a good 30 to 50% of the population that's still living off a huge chunk of savings. This one right here is another one that was for sale all of last summer, and after it didn't sell, they ended up renting it out for I think about $3,000 a month, and that's $3,000 a month. Some of you might think that's really expensive, but it's actually pretty decent considering they wanted close to $800,000 for that house. So if you wanted to buy it, mortgage it, you'd probably pay over $5 grand, maybe close to $6, depending on how much you put down with today's interest rates. So $3,000 is actually not bad, but it's a good example of what's going on nowadays, where people are trying to sell and they can't sell so many of these places that are on the high end because the value just isn't there, as far as you can rent it for half as much. So here's another one on the same street that's for sale. Man, that tree really needs to be cut back. Same thing with this one. I don't know what the details are on this one. I'll put them up on the screen, but I think it has an ADU in the back, so that's definitely going to add some value. Coming up on the right here is that blue whale that I made the TikTok video about over a year and a half ago, how they built this giant monstrosity in this neighborhood with all these narrow lots, these little houses like these skinny houses like these right here, and they came in and did a double lot and just built this giant blue whale. And you know, some people agreed with me, but not everybody. Some people really like that place. Hey look, some free stuff. See anything good? So anyway, just wanted to come out here and share some thoughts, because I'm just sick and tired of listening to the radio, turning on the TV, seeing the news articles, the YouTube videos, all trying to predict what is going to happen with interest rates, and talking about Jerome Powell had this contrite look and this awkward pause, and that means this is going to happen in the future. It's like, look, we're all living in the same country. We're all experiencing the same economy. Use your head. Try and think about it. For what reason do you think we're headed straight back to 2% mortgage rates? What reason? What would happen to the economy if they brought those back right now? Just ask yourself that question. The rate of inflation being influenced by the cost of housing. If the cost of housing went up 30% in the next year, what would happen to the inflation rate? And you see we have articles posted about how there's rates coming and how this is going to positively impact the economy and how long it's going to take for it to impact. And I just asked myself, okay, we're 2 years in to high rates that are supposed to slow down the economy, and what has that done so far? And then I have cheerleading by realtors that's saying, go ahead and bite the bullet, buy with a higher interest rate, because low interest rates are right around the corner. When they can't make that promise, they don't have any idea what's going to happen. And then we have articles that are, surprise, surprise, the era of near zero interest rates is coming to an end, or has come to an end. Yeah, well, it wasn't really an era, it was a brief window. And even having 3.5% mortgage rates is something we should have all really appreciated. But the long-term average is actually somewhere around 7%, which is where we are right now. So all these people, they have an inaccurate view of what interest rates are supposed to be. They think they're supposed to be low and around 3 or 4% for a well-qualified borrower. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the subject. I'm not holding my breath and waiting for lower interest rates. I'm trying to save as much as I can, make use of high yield savings accounts, CDs, and things that are over 5% still, and waiting to see what happens this winter. You know, we still really want to buy a house, but we're not ready to jump into something that's going to be way too expensive. You know, renting right now is way cheaper, especially where I live. If I wanted to buy a place like where I rent, it would cost me probably $4,000 a month when I'm paying a little bit less than half that. So for me, it's a little bit of a wait and see approach. But you know, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to try and make some more of these type of videos. I know there's a few of you out there who watch them. I want to say thank you for your support, and make sure and hit that subscribe button.